Welcome to this Monday episode of Locked On Blue Jays. Rumors are swirling around Bo Bichette and what's going to happen. Is he going to be extended? Is he going to be traded? What is going on in Blue Jays land?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Actually, just had a buddy ask me what the code was, and so pass that along to him, and there we go. Make sure you guys take advantage of that as well. As always, I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Wasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays as well. If you're new here on YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you head over to the YouTube page. We've made it the hub. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you guys can get videos, shorts, live streams of the podcast, obviously. Hit the subscribe button. Helps us out. It's free. You might as well do so. We're trying to get to 2,000 by the end of the year. Probably not going to happen. It's getting close. But so let's aim for like 1,900. Let's say that. It's 10 off. We can do it. Come on, guys. Also, Discord link has been updated. Carter has made sure that got in. And I saw Carter actually join the Discord. What is happening here? It's crazy.
Yeah, we had a little bit of some technical difficulties. I thought I was actually in the Discord, but that was just a random other Blue Jays group chat that we had. So I was like, why isn't this kind of bumping a little bit more? I thought there might be a little bit more participation in the group chat, and then I tried the link out again just to make sure it works, and then it just sends me to a completely different Discord. So yeah, I guess hand up, that one's on me. Just not ready in the Discord, unfortunately. But at least we've been grinding up the podcast. Obviously, we've been really consistent with what we've been doing here, and obviously, it's been an interesting offseason to say the least. Now we're getting into more rumors, more speculation. Just a lot of hearsay is kind of where we're at with the Toronto Blue Jays right now. And this one is regarding, again, one of the Blue Jays superstars, Bo Bichette.
Yeah, man. The weird thing about this offseason is there was so much promise, then absolutely nothing. Then a couple signings happen on the same day, a trade, a signing. We're like, oh my goodness, we're kicking into high gear. And now it's been, 3 weeks of nothing? And I mean, I think we can speculate that the next 2 weeks are going to be full of nothing with, New Year's and Christmas and the whole ordeal, everybody taking time off. Usually stuff doesn't happen in that period of time. But that doesn't mean the Toronto Blue Jays media doesn't stop churning out content, because now there's rumors and things going on that's saying Bo Bichette, that there's been trade rumors and speculation on Bo Bichette. There's been offers. There's been whatever else. I know Ross Atkins has said multiple times that Bo Bichette is not going to be traded. So I want to preface this whole conversation with that. Then we go into the fact that, okay, there are offers being thrown out there. Ross Atkins doesn't want to trade him, but is his hand going to be pushed eventually, Carter? Like, if they can't figure out an extension here in the next little while, are you starting to lean on the fact that Bo Bichette might be traded this offseason?
I'm starting to lean on the fact that they're going to keep Bo Bichette for 2025 and then let him go in free agency at the end of 2025, which definitely sucks. So we talk about this asset management. It's like, it's either you got to go into winning or you got to go all into rebuilding. And we're in this middle ground where they're making trades. They're trying to make the team better defensively, not trying to make the team better offensively. And you see all these other teams, like especially in the division, you see all these signings. The Yankees going out and getting Goldschmidt. Obviously, the Red Sox, the Garrett Crochet trade, the Orioles being active as well. But they're already so good initially. They don't really have to make a lot of moves to be competitive this upcoming season. And you look at the Blue Jays. Obviously, at the start, we're like, hey, we got to wait for Juan Soto to go off the board. It makes a lot of sense. Then you get Juan Soto, and then you get all these other dominoes falling. And then we had that one big day, like you said, where you get Yimi Garcia and you get the Andres Gimenez trade. And then since then, there has been crickets in the Toronto Blue Jays front office and the Toronto Blue Jays management, which is so frustrating to look at, because Ross Atkins has said that they're going to abandon this safety net and they're going to go all in on a winning season this year. And if you're going to, again, Bo Bichette is going to help the team win this year. And I think there's no debate about that. But if you're not going to be able to get him to sign an extension, you're not even right now, it doesn't seem like you're able to bring in any sort of big time free agent. So it doesn't really lead me to believe that they're going to be able, or at least going to want to maybe extend Bo Bichette at the end of this upcoming season.
No, I'm getting more and more worried. I thought that there would have been a big signing by now. Maybe that pushes the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette extension talks. It gets them going because okay, now this team's committed to winning, but it hasn't happened. We've talked a ton about Anthony Santander, Teoscar Hernandez, two guys that are still on the board. So the Blue Jays, we can't say that the Blue Jays are completely out of it yet and they're done. Nothing's going to happen. We said at this point, either one of those two guys, maybe Jerkson Profar. We talked about that on the last episode, and possibly Alex Bregman. Those are the guys. If you don't pull one of them, this is looking like a very, very tough off season for this team. And now we're getting trade rumors about Bo Bichette. And so how does the front office think that this looks to the fan base right now who are been wanting a move to happen, nothing happens, and now rumors about your second biggest player on your team possibly being moved, or rumors that he doesn't want to stay, or whatever else that we've been through over the past year. I think this is a very, very bad look for this front office, and I know we've gone over this, but it's starting to catch some heat here. As I look, I mean, you could look it up. Look up Bo Bichette and just see it. Just trade speculation on him. That's a big problem.
Well, I got this report from Ken Rosenthal, and this is kind of what inspired this episode, is from The Athletic. The Blue Jays are listening to calls again about All-Star Bo Bichette. We've heard this at the end of last season. We heard this at the start of the offseason. We're hearing this now. So I feel like they're at least fielding calls for Bo Bichette. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. But what does a Bo Bichette trade even look like? Like the Dodgers obviously would be not like a very high piece for me. That would be very interesting in Bo Bichette. They've been interested in Bichette before. A trade could look like you got a starting pitcher because they have $1 million right now. Again, are they going to be healthy is the question. So you're going to have to kind of pick from the bunch they have. I think the only ones you can really get though are probably Dustin May, Bobby Miller might be one. And then Tony Gosselin might be another one they might be into. And then from what I've seen from that mock trade is Gavin Lux would be another guy going to the Toronto Blue Jays. And then they send Bo Bichette there. Or the other one I've seen is that just a big prospect haul where you send him to the Dodgers, whether you send him to, I don't know, the Mariners, something like that. There's just prospects going the other way. But that goes completely against what Ross Atkins has said for this offseason. And just, again, looking at some of the speculation, another report from Ken Rosenthal, which I thought this one was a little bit interesting. And I thought this would be a little bit more realistic than just like a straight up Bo Bichette trade for like with nothing else behind it. There has to be some sort of secondary plan, I think, if you're trading Bo Bichette. And this one, again, from Ken Rosenthal, says that he thinks the plan is going to be that they extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, we're going to be on board with that. We've been saying that pretty much every single episode on this podcast. But then he says that they might trade Bo Bichette, and that might lead to a signing of Alex Bregman. So you trade Bo Bichette. If you trade him to that Dodgers, you get that deal. You get a starting pitcher, which you order in on this offseason. Do you really need starting pitching? You can't really have too many pitchers, but is that the biggest need on the Toronto Blue Jays? Probably not, but there is some flexibility you can have getting more starting pitching. You can throw one in the bullpen. Maybe Bowden Francis, if he doesn't have as good of a start of the season, even though I'm high on Bowden Francis, maybe you throw him in the bullpen. But yeah, you'd have Bregman at third base. I think that would mean Andres Gimenez moves to shortstop. That would make the most sense in my head. And then you have your second baseman as Will Wagner, maybe Orelvis Martinez, one of the guys in there. So if you have Vladdy, you would have Bregman signed to probably a 6-7 year deal. How would you think about the Toronto Blue Jays if they look like that when we're going into the 2025 season?
This comes back to something I've said probably since the middle of this season. When this whole trades and what's the offseason going to look like, and we've had conversations around this. I keep going back to the fact that you need to keep Bo and Vlad. You have to. Because if you're just going to trade Bo Bichette and replace him with Alex Bregman, that's not moving this team forward. It's the same team with one piece changed. And possibly you could see Bo Bichette go and lead the league in hits again. That is a very realistic possibility. So is Alex Bregman going to outplay Bo Bichette? And yes, Andres Gimenez will probably be a better fielder at short than Bo Bichette would, but the bat means nothing to me right now. So am I in love with this idea? Absolutely not. To me, a big play here that would make a huge statement was you were able to keep Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and able to add a left fielder plus Alex Bregman. That would be and show me that this team is ready to move and ready to win and ready to put all the chips in the middle, but we haven't seen that. We haven't seen an all-out, okay, throw these guys the bag and see what happens. Bo Bichette is probably going to end up getting 28 to $30 million in free agency. Vladdy's probably, I mean, who knows? The ceiling's, who knows what the ceiling is for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and what he can get, because we just saw Soto now have the highest or the most amount of contract in ever. So there you go. What? So in my head, if you trade Bo Bichette, you're like, it's just a replacement. It's not making this team better. So again, I don't necessarily think that they're going to trade Bo Bichette. If I was to lean one way or the other, Carter, I agree with you. I think they're going to run out 2025. Bichette's going to have a great season, and he's going to test the open market, get more money than the Blue Jays would have offered, and he's going to go somewhere else, and we're going to lose him to free agency. That would be my biggest. I would just hate to see it, but that's what I think is going to happen.
See, I think you're missing kind of a point in this scenario where if you do trade Bo Bichette, you're probably going to get some major league talent back. So I don't think it'd necessarily be a swap for Bo Bichette for Alex Bregman. There's a debate with who's better, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette. Won't get into that too much for this episode, but there's similar players you could say they're going to have similar offensive outputs. You got to assume you're trading Bo Bichette and you're signing Alex Bregman in this scenario. You have Vladdy extended. You're probably trying to win this year, so you're not going to make a trade for prospects. Again, is this going to happen? Is a whole new can of worms here. I don't think it's even a possibility. With Ross Atkins, what he has said, and just the contract extension talks. We haven't seen a contract more than the George Springer contract, 6 years, $150 million, with all these superstars on the Toronto Blue Jays, not locking any of them up, them being in on every single free agent as well. Let's look at the free agents they were in on. They were linked to Josh Naylor. He's gone. They were sort of linked to Christian Walker. Not really, but he's gone as well. You look at just Max Kepler was a guy that we were talking on this podcast. He's gone. Juan Soto obviously gone as well. We go down the list. Jesus Luzardo just got traded as well. It's another guy. So you go down this list of guys that the Toronto Blue Jays were at least talking to and just being in on. And this list is really thinning out very quickly. Like we have Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander, Jurickson Profar. You got Bregman, Pete Alonso, maybe at this point, now you made that trade. Other than that, for impact players in the free agency market, you're really running out of time to make an impact move. And trading Bo Bichette, if Ross Atkins is open to that, again, I don't think he is, but that might be an exploration to explore if you're going to get some impact players on this team. But it's so hard to believe that they're going to go that direction when they can't even sign one of their superstars to even like a short-term deal, anything to keep them further in the Toronto Blue Jays organization past 2025.
To be honest with you, you talked about the fact that they would bring in some major league talent. I don't know what they would do, because I don't know the trade value in this organization, in this front office. I don't understand what they look at as value. I didn't love the Andres Gimenez trade. I didn't understand it, really. So now are we going to trust them to go and trade Bo Bichette to get pieces back here? I just think, yes, there is a situation where it could make sense, but I feel like this front office isn't going to do the right move, and I feel like they're going to get screwed. I'm running very, very low on my faith with this organization and this front office. That I don't think I trust them to trade Bo Bichette. I don't think that, and this offseason sort of proves it to me. You bring back Yimi Garcia, a guy we love, but that's not really adding to the bullpen. You then trade for a defensive first, second baseman. Not really the direction that this team needs to go. And then you have two outstanding superstars not signed to extensions. Do you trust them to make a good trade with Bo Bichette? Or I think this would just burn the house down.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't trust Ross Atkins at all. We've talked about that on the podcast for eternity, it feels like. It seems like every single episode we talk about how we don't trust Ross Atkins whatsoever. And it's the history of Ross Atkins. You look at the playoff success. You look at some of the free agents he's let go, some of the ones he signed. The only really good free agency he had is when he went out and got Kevin Gausman, got some of these players to rebuild kind of for that 2022 season. Other than that, we haven't seen a lot from Ross Atkins in the Ross Atkins era for this team to compete. So it's, again, we get back to the same point every single time. It's just, there's all these moves that could, in theory, be made. If you had a GM that wanted to win, kind of had his head screwed on a little bit tighter, you could say. But with Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, this era, as we get farther and farther in the offseason, it's becoming more and more clear to me that this team is just not going to make the impact move that they need to be competitive in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think we can stress that enough. Let us know what you guys think. Do you think Bo Bichette should be traded? Do you think they should go and make a move? Do you trust this organization to do that? Do you trust this front office to make the right move? Or do you think it's got to be throw the bag at these guys? We need Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to stay. Let us know what you guys think. If you have any other opinions, make sure you drop them down in the comments below. we are going to get into some trades around the league, some different discussions around the entirety of the MLB. Plus, we still have to break down the Blue Jays signing from the other day. We didn't go live, and you guys will find out why we didn't go live right after the second break coming up. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Woo, they're upping it for the playoffs. Make sure you guys go and get those bonus bets. It's huge. It's free money. You might as well. Gives you some room to play with. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. I'm telling you guys, I like their live game bets. I love it because I can see who's doing well, who's doing not, where should I place my bets. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance to win $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Carter, we talked about Bo Bichette and the trade rumors speculate, sort of resurfacing once again. Now let's talk about what's going on in the rest of the MLB. What trades have happened? What moves have been made? Other teams have done. What can the Blue Jays look forward to? Who's left on the board? All of that and more. What do you got to kick us off?
The one that I'm going to start with is the Josh Naylor trade. And this one is pretty interesting because I don't think they really gave up a whole lot to get Josh Naylor, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they obviously get Josh Naylor, and they send back Slad Sissoni, I want to say. I might be pronouncing that wrong, hopefully not. And then they also get a competitive balanced draft pick. Doesn't really seem like a ton to give up for a guy like Josh Naylor. You get a Canadian, you lost Jordan Romano, you would have got Josh Naylor back. Going to the D-backs, that's a big move for them, obviously losing Christian Walker. Is he going to produce the same way as Christian Walker? I don't think so. But again, if you can get even 80% of that production, that's probably going to help your team in the long run. But it's just frustrating. You see the Arizona Diamondbacks, not the biggest market team of all time, like whatsoever. And again, I think the Toronto Blue Jays could have gave up a package similar to this. Maybe they have to overpay a little more with some of or they have to send more prospects, I should say, because they don't have those top of the line prospects necessarily. But for a guy like Josh Naylor, for a team that desperately needs a power bat, and just looking at the haul they got back, it gets so frustrating watching other teams make these signings, making these moves, because it feels like the Toronto Blue Jays could do the exact same thing. They just fail to do it every single time.
Yeah, it's stuff. You see moves happen. You're like, the Toronto Blue Jays couldn't have matched that or done better. What's going on here? I want to know what this front office is doing in terms of reaching out to teams and looking for those trades that they can, maybe stun everybody with. But they just don't do it. It doesn't happen, and it's getting frustrating the more and more things come out. Carter, I want to get into one that sort of got me, and because I know he's a guy that we've talked about. He's a guy that some people in the comments have mentioned as well, and that's Luzardo and the Phillies landing him. I don't know. So the Phillies acquire left-handed pitcher Jesus Luzardo and catcher Paul McIntosh from the Miami Marlins for prospects Starlin, Caba, and Marion. Both clubs announced Sunday. Again, I don't know. This just seems like something the Blue Jays could have done. I don't know. And that's everything that comes out consistently. I keep going back to the same thing. Where are the Blue Jays? Why are they not at least in talks to see what they can give up for these guys? But it feels like it doesn't happen. And again, this would have been a better move to me than going and getting a defensive first, second baseman. I don't know, man. I'm blown away a little bit.
For me with this one, I don't love him. I ain't gonna lie. I don't love Jesus Luzardo. And it's not as much the player, it's more so the fit as well. You look at the starting pitching, if you're going to give up one of your top prospects, the Phillies give up their 4th ranked and their 23rd ranked. So for the Toronto Blue Jays, that's a guy like Jake Bloss, Trey Savage. Again, Orelvis Martinez maybe is thrown in there. Ricky Tiedemann, probably not with the injury history, but that would have been one of their top guys. But it just, for the fit, doesn't really make a lot of sense. And that's when I talk about the Andres Gimenez trade, you don't like that as much as I do. I like that trade in a vacuum. I don't like that trade for the 2025 for Toronto Blue Jays because it doesn't make sense because you have needs. You're not addressing those needs at all. And again, just looking at, we talked about how the Toronto Blue Jays could make some of these moves. Let's talk about Christian Walker going to the Houston Astros, $20 million over $60 million in total 3 years. You can't pay Christian Walker $20 million. that is a massive signing that boosts your team. You got a power hitting first baseman. It's a little bit weird with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You're going to have to, again, one of them's probably your DH. I think, again, Christian Walker is probably a better fielder than Vladdy, so that makes it a little bit complicated in that scenario. But $20 million for the Christian Walker that we saw last season, again, there's always that speculation. Is he going to be able to continue that? That is something that I think the Toronto Blue Jays at least should have reached out on. I don't think they were in on Christian Walker whatsoever. Don't really understand why you wouldn't be. And then the Max Kepler signing, I think it was $12 million. You can't go out and sign Max Kepler for $12 million. I know it was 1 year, but again, this is when you have these corner outfielders, again, there's bigger fish on the market right now. There's Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander. But if you don't get one of those guys, where are we at here? Even if we bring in Corbin Burns that the Jays are linked to as well, it's coming down to the Giants and the Jays. The Jays are reported to have the highest offer out of both teams, and Corbin Burns still isn't accepting that offer. So what does that say about the Toronto Blue Jays and how just players around the league view this organization? I don't necessarily think that it's the team right now. They don't hate Toronto. I don't think it's the city. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's the management and the direction of the team. Who would want to join this fire show, for a lack of a better term, and just all the uncertainty that's with the Toronto Blue Jays and the lack of winning, the lack of just even trying to put your team in a place to succeed and win baseball games. Why, if you're a superstar player, unless you want the bag, which clearly Corbin Burns, he probably would have accepted that deal if he wanted the bag, he probably wants to go somewhere where he has more of a chance of winning. Is that the San Francisco Giants? Right now, I mean, it's better than the Jays. I probably wouldn't go there if you want to win. But if it's the Jays, the Giants, I think the Giants, at least with their front office, it's looking a little bit more confident from their fan base, and they have more trust in their front office to actually make some of these big moves.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like at some point here, we have to look back, and I think the Blue Jays organization has to look back and maybe say, hey, we should have let Ross Atkins go at the end of last season, brought somebody new in, and set sort of a new tone and let them sort of just work this offseason to see what was happening. And I know, in hindsight, and when we talked about that Ross Atkins should have been gone a long time ago. And I'm going to keep bringing it up to this, that if this season goes poorly, Carter, there is no excuse in the book for me that Ross Atkins needs to be gone, or I think we storm Rogers. I think all the fans get the pitchforks out and we storm Rogers because, yeah, it's just a bad look. This organization has a bad sort of dark cloud around it that players don't want to come here. And it's not because of the city. It's not because of some of the players on this team. I think Vlad is a big draw for players to come here. But seeing that the front office has not now gone and signed extension with Bo and Vlad before this whole Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani thing happened, they should have had deals in place so that in case we ran into a situation like this, those two players were signed. We knew they were going to be superstars, exceptional talents, and nothing has worked. And it's getting super, super frustrating as fans. And I bet you it's super frustrating for you guys listening to this podcast because we always go back to the same thing. But at the end of the day, when nothing's happening, I don't know where we go from here now. And that's a brutal part of this.
I feel like with the Toronto Blue Jays front office, there's just a lack of wanting to get the players that had really good seasons previously, the guys that you're necessarily buying high on. And I always talk about, you don't necessarily want to sell people, or you don't want to buy people at their best off their best season. But at the end of the day, when you got a guy like Anthony Santander, the floor is so high compared to some of these other players. At some point, you're going to have to make an impact signing. You're going to have to maybe overpay, especially with you being the Toronto Blue Jays attack system, whatever. You're going to have to overpay for some of these guys, whether it's your Corbin Burns, whether it's your Teoscar Hernandez, whether it's your Anthony Santander. For the bullpen, I don't mind them doing this trial and error out, trying to find some of these diamonds in the rough. Because again, you get 3 or 4 top-end bullpen arms. I don't even know if the Jays have that right now. I'm not going to go that far. But if you get, for your lower leverage guys, if you get 1 or 2 of those guys to work out, and they can be serviceable options down the line, for bullpen, there's a lot more volatility there with how consistent these players are. But when you're looking at a hitter, like it's Andres Gimenez, again, he had a great season in 2022, but 2023 and 2024, not that good of seasons. Are you all of a sudden expecting him to bounce back and hit 280? Like this guy doesn't walk, so he's not going to get on base too much more than he is hitting the baseball. And then are you going to rely on Alejandro Kirk bouncing back? It seems like I've said this before. It seems like Ross Atkins in the front office feel like everything has to line up perfectly. The dominoes have to fall perfectly in line for this team to be successful in 2025, rather than just making that big move, making that big signing, and for sure locking it in that you are going to be competitive for 2025, even if things don't go exactly according to plan.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think they're relying on the bounce back. And don't get me wrong. in my head a little bit as well. Bo Bichette has a bounce back season. Alejandro Kirk probably plays better. Him getting very consistent playing time. When we've seen Alejandro Kirk play consistently, we've seen him have success. So I think those two guys you can look at for a bounce back. Will the bullpen be good? I don't know. We'll see. Every year is a coin flip. And then there are other guys, right? That Varsho, you hope continues to play well. Hopefully his bat heats up. George Springer, you need a bounce back from either way. I
If he
mean,
can just be
otherwise,
league average for me, like with where am I with George Springer? If he can be a league average hitter, I am more than happy with that at this point in his career.
yeah, you can't expect anything more than that from him. And that's what I mean. You just need him to be okay. And maybe the rest of the team falls into place. Andres Jimenez, again, I've said my bit on that trade. I'm not blown away. I don't think it was the worst thing in the world either. I think it was very whatever. It's just, we talked about this a couple episodes ago too, is that can't be your major move. And we'll have to see what this front office can do in the remainder of free agency before this season gets underway, because you don't want to get to a point where the pitchers and the catchers are reporting, players are starting to report, and then you bring somebody in who then doesn't get a preseason, a spring training, because we've seen how players have reacted in the past to not getting those spring trainings, not getting warmed up and loosened up for the season. I don't know, man. I'm pretty worried. And I'm trying to go into, this holiday season with a good mindset, and maybe the Jays will shock me, surprise me, but maybe I just got to put that out of mind to be able to actually like enjoy my Christmas.
That might be the best case scenario. Just like maybe for the next week and a half, we kind of just take the free agency out of it. Just enjoy the holidays. Don't think about the Toronto Blue Jays, because if you think about the Toronto Blue Jays a little bit too hard, it probably would ruin your Christmas pretty quickly. I'll leave it at this for this segment. The one positive is that they did sign Justin Turner late in offseason last season, but again, that's Justin Turner. So there's two sides of this coin. There still is opportunity for the Toronto Blue Jays to sign these players until Anthony Santander, Teo, Profar, all these guys that we always talk about. Until they're actually gone, there always is this option to actually go out and get them. But are they going to wait? And then is that Justin Turner type signing going to be that impact move once again? And that's going back to Ross Atkins one last time. I would have been done with him after last season. Yeah, you have some players, again, that don't necessarily do what they're expected to. George Springer is a pumpkin. Alejandro Kirk can't hit a baseball for the majority of the season. There's things that you can't account for. Bo Bichette, obviously. But when it goes that bad, and it's been that bad for this long, again, 2022 feels like it was 15 years ago at this point. So I would have moved on from Ross Atkins at that point. I feel like a lot of fans are at this point as well, a lot of people that watch this podcast, that we're going to be in for a rough season in 2025. But hopefully Ross Atkins can prove us wrong.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. We got to talk about the Blue Jays signing. Obviously, it's not the craziest thing of all time, because we would have been live for it. Some of you caught that, sort of made some jokes in the comments. We appreciate that. It was pretty funny because, yeah, we saw it. And me and Carter, usually, like, if something crazy happens, we'll be texting each other pretty much consistently throughout the entire day. I don't think either one of us said a thing. So,
I think I gave you an LOL.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we come back right after this short break. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Like we always talk about, Game Time has the best deals, especially with their Game Time picks. Makes it even easier to save more on sports, comedy, concerts, theater. I mean, sort of whatever you want, especially around this time. You can make sure you get those tickets as well for anybody you're buying gifts for. They always make for good gifts. You want to go watch an NHL game or a football game or an MLB. Maybe you're pre-ordering MLB games. I don't know. They also have all-in pricing. Targeting this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at the checkout. They have the seat views where you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, with the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, Carter, insanely huge Blue Jays signing. Yeah, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's all I got.
I'll jump into it. Josh Walker coming from the New York Mets to the Toronto Blue Jays on a 1-year MLB deal. He's 30 years old, 5.11 ERA, and 12.1 innings pitched with the Mets. Had a 4.06 ERA in AAA. again, we're talking about the bullpen, we talk about this trial and everything. It's not every single signing for the bullpen is not going to be the Tanner Scotts, the Carlos Estevez's. With the Toronto Blue Jays, you're not going to get any of those. You're going to get Yimi Garcia. So with this trial and error with the bullpen, I don't mind it. Again, there's not like if you need the left-handed pitching, that's always good. It's never a bad thing to have a lot of bullpen arms in your system because you have some guys that can emerge, kind of like Brendan Little did last season, and be an effective piece for your bullpen. So it's not one that's eye-popping. It's not one that obviously we were going to go live for because before this, I was kind of like, who is Josh Walker? I think you probably did that. I think a lot of people following the Toronto Blue Jays are like, who is Josh Walker? You know, when you pitch 12 and a third innings in the MLB in 2024, it's going to be hard to know about a reliever in the NL.
Yeah, I was taken aback. I wasn't really sure what to think about. I sort of looked over some of his stats and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, this is a nothing burger. It is what it is. I agree with you. I think bullpens are so hit and miss anyway that I don't hate taking shots on some guys and just seeing what works. I think you bring back Yimi Garcia, which is a good move because I think you see what he can do and you see the player he can be. So I like that. This is, yeah, you got to add surrounding pieces, guys that you think, hey, maybe this guy will work out. Maybe he won't, but maybe he will. So no, I don't hate this at all. And again, like you said, it's, we're not going live for something like this. Like we're barely covering it.
It's a 1 year, $760K. Like it's under $1 million. It's a bullpen arm. Like again, it's going to help the reinforcement if there's injuries, if baseball things happen throughout the year. A couple other, again, just minor league signings, just minimal signings here. Bobby Malachy on a minor league deal, son of Bob Malachy. So that's kind of cool. 55 innings pitched over 31 games between AA and AAA. Maybe we see him at some point. Probably not a great thing if we see him in the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025. And two other ones, Kyle Gowdy and Michael Stefaniuk are signing minor league deals with the Toronto Blue Jays with invites to Major League Spring Training. Stefaniuk is just, low power, just Jays typical hitter. Low power, contact, probably plays good defense. Doesn't have that power bat, not going to hit home runs. And then you have Kyle Gowdy. I don't know a ton about him. Just one of those, again, you hope it works out. The last year when you had those, you hope they work out kind of deals. You had Eduardo Escobar and you had Daniel Vogelback. So not exactly what you're looking for, but again, hopefully that we put that bad history in the past and we can only talk about positive bullpen arms for 2025.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, whatever signings, this is going to be sort of an interesting sort of 2 weeks for us here on the podcast. We're going to try to bring you guys some more interesting episodes. Maybe that takes you out of the routine of the everyday show here for us. We got Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters joining us for a Christmas special. We will be, it'll be live Christmas Day. So, have some fun, throw the podcast on. We're just going to be talking, snapping it around a little bit about sort of everything. We're going to encompass everything, get those guys' opinions because me and Carter talk to each other every day. We talk to you guys, in the comments on the Discord, what have you. But those guys have a little bit of a different perspective than we do. They're your fans. They're your, guys that keep close attention, but they don't chat with us on a day-to-day basis. So their opinions may differ. So hopefully we get into a couple debates. We're going to have some fun questions for them as well. Go back and forth. It should be a fun episode. Friday, another different episode, but sort of interesting episode. I think we take a look at the MLB as a whole a little bit. And, I don't want to spoil anything, Carter, because it's a very interesting episode and people got to tune in for that one. And because I guarantee you people are going to have their strong opinions on that one. And next week, of course, New Year's week, we're probably going to try to do some type of New Year's episode. We have some ideas for that, but really haven't nailed it down. We'll see what happens there. It'll be fun. Hopefully you guys have a great holiday season. Hopefully we see you on Christmas Day when the episode goes live. But if not, and this is the last episode you see before then, we wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, everything together. And make sure you guys tune in, check out that Christmas episode.
I got two more things. So the first one is the Kyle Gowdy stat of the day. 156 whip in AAA. Not exactly what you want to see. And the last thing is we actually had our 1 year anniversary of Locked On Blue Jays. Not when the first episode was released, but the first day that we knew that we had Locked On Blue Jays. So that was obviously nice for us. A little bit of a celebration 1 year in, absolutely flown by. Does not feel like that we've been doing it for a year whatsoever. I'll just throw it back to you for your final thoughts about our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember when we first started, for those of you who care about this anyway, when we first started.
Left it to this. Yeah. 34 minutes in the episode.
Yeah. When we first started, we made like predictions, but with me, Carter, and our roommate Justin. And we said, where do we think this podcast can grow to? Where do we think we'd get it to? And I think the highest one that we said was like 1,200 subscribers. We were gonna have a blast doing it. It's gonna be tons of fun. We're a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And you guys have absolutely blown it out of the water. I mean, we're almost at 1,900. The amount of Jays fans that come by, give us their opinions, make us a part of their sort of daily routine. And you turn on the podcast in the car, or you're going for a walk, and you got us in your ear, or you're sitting down on the TV watching us. We appreciate you guys a ton. And it's been a fantastic year, and only looking forward to bigger, better, and crazier things, hopefully, in 2025, and hopefully a little bit more winning as well.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what this podcast has been over the last year. It's been an outlet to just get rid of your frustrations about the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's been nice for us. Obviously, we want more success, obviously, in the future, but it's nice to have a community, nice to have some people that are going through the same agony as ourselves. So again, we thank you guys for watching, all of the kinds of support, likes, comments, subscriptions, whether in the Discord, whether you were donating to Movember, any little thing that you can do for us, we appreciate so much. Just wanted to let you guys know that during the holiday season. Again, thank you guys for watching, and same thing. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.